If you're over 60 and managing more than one health condition, which most people in this age group are, there's something happening inside your brain that your doctor may never have mentioned to you. It involves medications you probably think are safe. Some are prescription, many you can buy at any pharmacy without a second thought, and the evidence linking them to memory loss and dementia has been building quietly in the medical literature for years. These medications belong to a specific class, and once you know the name, you'll be able to spot it on any label. But more importantly, you'll understand why this particular risk matters more if you're over 60 than it does for anyone else.
Here's something worth knowing about what's happening in the aging brain. Starting around your 60s, your brain naturally begins producing less of a chemical called acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is the signal carrier. It's what allows your brain cells to pass information to each other. When you recall a name, hold a complex thought, or follow the thread of a conversation, you're relying on acetylcholine to make those connections work. The gradual decline of it is a normal feature of aging. Not a disease, just a shift. Your brain adapts. Most people don't notice it dramatically. But here's the problem. That decline creates a vulnerability. Because when you add a medication that blocks acetylcholine on top of a brain that's already producing less of it, the effect isn't additive, it compounds. The same drug that might cause mild drowsiness in a 40-year-old can meaningfully impair memory function in a 65-year-old. And yet the medications we're talking about are prescribed and purchased over the counter without any standard warning for older adults.
The class of drugs is called anticholinergics, and what's unsettling is how many of them look like completely ordinary household medications. Anticholinergic drugs work, in part, by blocking the activity of acetylcholine. For conditions like an overactive bladder or gut spasms, that blocking effect is the intended mechanism. It works. But these medications don't stay confined to one organ system. They reach the brain, and there they interfere with the exact chemistry that memory and cognition depend on. The medications on this list are not unusual. They're familiar. Benadryl, the allergy and cold medication that's been in medicine cabinets for decades, is strongly anticholinergic. So are the majority of over-the-counter sleep aids, Unisom, ZZ-Quil, and the PM versions of Tylenol and Advil. The active ingredient doing the sedating in almost all of them is the same one in Benadryl, diphenhydramine. Bladder control medications, including oxybutynin and tolterodine, sold as Ditropan and Detrol, are among the strongest anticholinergics routinely prescribed to people in this age group. Some anti-anxiety medications carry anticholinergic properties, certain antidepressants, medications for motion sickness, nausea, and irritable bowel syndrome. None of these are rare. If you open the average medicine cabinet belonging to someone over 60 who's managing a few health conditions, you'll often find 2 or 3 of them.
The research on this has been accumulating for years. Harvard Medical School reviewed the evidence and put it plainly. Taking one of these drugs daily for 3 or more years was linked to a 54% higher dementia risk. Benadryl was among the medications specifically named. A large study published in JAMA Internal Medicine followed nearly 300,000 patients in the UK and reached the same conclusion. Anticholinergic drugs are associated with an increased risk of dementia and should be prescribed with caution in middle-aged and older adults. The National Institute on Aging, part of the U.S. government's National Institutes of Health, says the greater the use of these drugs, the higher the potential risk. And the Beers criteria, an official clinical guideline used by doctors across the United States, specifically lists anticholinergic drugs as medications to avoid in adults to reduce the cumulative anticholinergic burden. Now, here's the part of this story that doesn't get enough attention. And for people in this age group, it may be the most important. It's rarely just one medication. Consider someone who's been prescribed hydroxyzine for anxiety. At night, they take Unisom to fall asleep, and they've been on oxybutynin for bladder control for a couple of years. Each of those medications has some anticholinergic effect. Together, They create what researchers call anticholinergic burden, a cumulative load on the brain's signaling system that is considerably heavier than any single drug on its own. This pattern is not unusual. It's routine. Pharmacists reviewing medication lists in this demographic encounter it regularly. And most patients, and sometimes their own doctors, aren't tracking the anticholinergic load across all of them simultaneously. For a brain that's already navigating the natural acetylcholine decline that comes with age, carrying a high anticholinergic burden on top of that isn't just a side effect. Based on the evidence we have, it may be actively accelerating cognitive decline. This isn't information meant to frighten you. The whole point of knowing about this is that it's something you can act on. There are safer alternatives for nearly every condition on this list, and the first step is simply a conversation, one that most people have never had. Step 1. Do a medicine cabinet review. Go through every medication you take regularly, prescription and over-the-counter. For each one, search the name alongside the word anticholinergic. Your pharmacist can also do this review with you, and this is exactly the kind of consultation pharmacists are trained for but rarely asked to do. Bring your full medication list and ask them directly about your anticholinergic burden. Step 2. Don't stop any medication without speaking to your doctor first. Abrupt discontinuation can cause its own problems, particularly for conditions like anxiety or bladder control. The goal is an informed conversation about whether safer alternatives exist for what you're managing long term. For sleep, non-anticholinergic options include melatonin, magnesium glycinate, and, if a prescription is appropriate, medications like trazodone, which carries minimal anticholinergic effects. For allergies, second-generation antihistamines, cetirizine, loratadine, and fexofenadine, sold as Zyrtec, Claritin, and Allegra, don't penetrate the brain the way first-generation antihistamines do. If you've been reaching for Benadryl for seasonal allergies, this is a straightforward switch worth discussing. For bladder control, non-anticholinergic prescription options now exist. Mirabegron is one that's specifically prescribed because it treats the condition without the same cognitive burden as older medications. Step 3. Invest in what protects the brain. Regular physical activity, consistent quality sleep, managing blood sugar and blood pressure. These aren't general wellness platitudes. They're the specific lifestyle factors most strongly associated with preserving cognitive function, and they're active buffers against the kind of decline we're discussing.
You can't control every variable that comes with aging. Some of what happens in the brain over time is simply biology, but what you can control is what you add on top of it. The research we've covered today shows a strong, repeated association between higher cumulative anticholinergic exposure and an increased risk of dementia, observed across multiple large studies. Whether these medications directly cause that risk is still being studied. What isn't in debate is that the evidence has been strong enough for geriatric experts to recommend regularly reviewing these medications in older adults whenever safer alternatives are available. One conversation with your doctor or pharmacist could take as little as 20 minutes. That's a very small investment for what it might protect. This video took weeks of research, writing, and production to put together because you deserve health information that's actually grounded in evidence, not pulled from unreliable sources. A like goes a long way in helping this channel reach more people who need it. And I want to hear from you. Are you currently taking any of the medications mentioned in this video? Have you ever had a conversation with your doctor about your anticholinergic load? Drop it in the comments below. That's exactly what we're building here at Science After 60. Subscribe for clear, evidence-based guidance to help you make more informed decisions about healthy aging.